Good day, I'm Junior Researcher Adam Southgate, and today's lecture will be covering the Order of Merlin's actual structure. I'd appreciate that all hunters please subscribe as to not miss any future lectures, and also, if you could, recount any of your own interactions with the monsters of the spheres in the comment area of this video. So, to begin, as always, we'll start with our general announcements. Firstly, it has come to the Order's attention that a hunter under the username TheNightGuy4743 is leaving messages posing as a powerful fae, possibly the Green Man. While we at the Order can appreciate a good joke, the idea of an entity gaining access to the internet is preposterous. Sorry, what? There has been an entity that... Oh, we may need to ask the druids to post a specialty contract. Secondly, a quick update on the Carmarthen Vampire specialty contract. Master Hunter Geoffrey O'Sullivan took on the contract. Upon arriving in Carmarthen, he began work with the local police department, looking through the collected evidence from the initial discovery of the discarded bodies. Geoffrey, through his investigation, deduced that the vampire was indeed between the ages of 200 to 300 based on the sloppy disposal of the mutilated victims, and that they had not survived long after their captivity. Worried the young vampire would soon panic, realizing the bodies had been found due to the increased police activity, Geoffrey, knowing of the Order's testing of mentally broken MMBs on vampires due to their empathic sense, asked the Order to attempt a field test. Given Geoffrey's donation of broken MMBs to the Order previously, the Order accepted his plan, bringing in an MMB that Geoffrey had donated for the experiment. After going door to door in the guise of a police officer, Geoffrey found his target attempting to pack to flee the town. The MMB proved effective, with the target too busy attempting to take the most immediate escape to notice or care as Geoffrey placed the barrel of his weapon to the target's head. Thirdly, a continuation of the contract relating to the Ratasapiens within the tip near Merthyr Tydfil. After the surprise attack that Eat Garbage 4649 was the only survivor of, the rats have begun construction of what appears to be some sort of large, even by our scale, vehicle. This is obviously concerning and shows a massive departure from their usual level of technological ability. Now, while we could simply exterminate the super colony, we within the research community have managed to convince the druids that would be a great loss concerning what could be learned. Now, obviously the vehicle cannot be allowed to become functional, considering we have no idea what it's even built for, so we require a team of 30 to 40 hunters of journeyman rank or higher to take on this task. The Order will be providing you with access to both protective armor and our stock of World War II flamethrowers for the operation. However, if they do become damaged, you will need to pay a penalty fee. The team will be broken into two groups, the first acting as a distraction, feigning an all-out assault on the entrance, while Group 2 slips in back to the vehicle to both catalogue what they're building and then destroy it. This specialty contract requires a higher amount of hunters than normal, which will spread the payout a little thin. However, it is of vital importance as currently we have the rats locked within the tip, but if they are able to escape, the damage they could cause would be astronomical. If you are interested, please contact your local Order office. We at the Order understand that the Order itself as an organisation can be somewhat confusing. While other organisations take a far more modern approach equivalent to either a military unit or counter-terrorism task force, the Order still uses the same structure created at its founding nearly 2,000 years ago. To explain in brief, originally, during the times before the Roman invasion, you had many separate tribes of Celtic people living within ring fortresses all across Britain. These tribes would often fight between themselves, however, the druids would mediate between tribes to curtail the violence, while also, if a threat arose, selecting warriors from the different tribes to face the danger together. In aid of this role, the druids, while of the people, were not part of the people, living separately, so they would be unbiased when mediation was called for. This separation persists today, as hunters are not officially part of the Order and are instead private contractors. This mismatch, built upon a very old tradition, is why the Order is somewhat jumbled as an organization. So I will do my best to explain the different roles within the Order to attempt to make it understandable to those of you who are new. The High Druid is, as her title suggests, the leader of the Order of Merlin. Originally chosen by Merlin himself, the High Druid is now elected by their peers. The election is done using a blind system, where each druid who wishes to take on the role will speak to an impartial person about what they would do as High Druid. These conversations are done in private between the two people, and even those who do not wish to run will spend an amount of time with the person so that it is unknown who is running. Once all have explained their ideas, the impartial individual will give each presentation in a random order. The druids will then be able to vote, based not on the person, but on what they plan to do with the role. The High Druid, while having the ability to directly control all others in the Order, will mostly delegate the day-to-day to the druids beneath them. Instead, the High Druid will usually use their position to fund research into the field they feel is the most pressing, the Pinocchio program being one such project. Along with this, they will create specialty contracts of their own for threats they feel are more pressing. The High Druid is also the head of the gamekeepers, but I will go further into that once we get to them. She also directly communicates with both the Welsh and British governments on our behalf, while also maintaining our relationships with other organisations around the world. The last of the main roles of the High Druid is having the final decision on whether a new Order office is created or an old office is closed down. The Druids are each directly in charge of a single Order office. With the budget allocated to them by the High Druid, each are given free rein to run their office as they see fit, but will usually remain more on the conservative side. Their daily duties include managing the staff beneath them, both general and research, reading through the contracts written up by their apprentices before official posting, and overseeing the research projects currently active within their office. To simplify, they act as office managers, maintaining the general workflow of those beneath them. Each druid will have at least 100 staff beneath them, not including researchers and apprentice druids, from cleaners to security, most of which are either retired hunters or the family members of hunters and those already working for the Order. Apart from their day-to-day, they will also spend much of their time teaching their apprentices, of which they can have up to 10 at one time. The position of Druid is till death or retirement, with the oldest apprentices taking the place of the new Druid. Due to this, many apprentices never actually become full Druids, with most retiring themselves before a new spot is made available. When a new office is opened, the oldest of all the apprentices will take the place of the Druid teaching them, while they go on to start the new office. If an office is closed, the apprentices will be shared between the other Druids, while the Druid who ran the office will go on to directly assist the High Druid. Explaining the gamekeepers could literally fill a lecture all its own, however I will do my best to summarise. Originally, they were literally gamekeepers for nobles, helping to maintain their grounds while also working to prevent poaching. This changed, however, due to many of them sighting entities roaming the countryside, with it eventually becoming apparent to a small group of them that they had all witnessed similar sightings. They endeavoured to work together to catalogue these beasts and find a way to deal with them, as they were viewed as a danger to their families and lords. Due to them documenting what we were actively hunting, we eventually ran into each other, with them somewhat in awe that we could take down such beings, while for our part we were astounded by the detail of their observations of the entities. Where we had looked at the entities as monsters to be slain, they looked at them as animals to understand, documenting behavior, territory, feeding, and even breeding practices. The High Druid at the time chose to work with the group, directly funding their activities. The gamekeepers today are entrusted with confirming sightings of entities before a contract is posted. Along with this, they still collect their own information on the behaviors of entities that they then share with the Order. The researchers, a group I myself am included within, are rather a motley band. There are those who are more straightforward, university graduates who enter our radar and are offered a chance to work with us. But there are many like myself who, due to exposure to an entity or swept up in a net of possible entities as children, are unable to re-enter normal society. For those who are more traditionally employed as researchers, they can live away from the Order. However, for those like myself, we live in attached apartments to our office. If deemed psychologically sound and not visibly showing any signs of being touched by the spheres, one can request to live away from the office. However, like myself, many choose to remain, as they have very little connection to the mundane world and even find it frightening. As researchers, we are given a high degree of leeway to study any topic relating to the spheres we wish, though if asked by the High Druid or the Druid in charge of our office, we will move on to other avenues of research. Apart from research, we are also heavily involved with the manufacture of specialty equipment, such as the Pinocchio prosthetic and the MMB due to our licensing contract with the American RRR. The more senior researchers also look over each contract before their posting to ascertain if there is any opportunity for further study of the entity before it is hunted. We are also given a budget for posting our own contracts for hunters to take on, usually relating to acquiring anomalous materials such as wisp crystals or live capture of entities for study. The hunters, or simply yourselves, as stated, aren't actually members of the Order. The reasons for this are historical and somewhat political in nature. You work as independent contractors that the Order pays for each individual contract you undertake. What's important, however, is that the role you fill is vital to the Order as a whole, and without your support, the Order would fail. As hunters, your job is to take on contracts posted by the Order, risking your lives for the safety of all. The ranking system of apprentice, journeyman and master was originally adopted by the hunters themselves, taken from the old guild system. Simply put, a new hunter will work under a master as an apprentice until the master believes they have learned enough to become a journeyman. As a journeyman hunter, you will typically work with others of the same rank, increasing your experience until you feel ready to take on a contract of sufficient difficulty to be considered a masterwork by other master hunters. If at least 3 master hunters that wasn't your original master consider what you've hunted to be difficult enough, they will grant you the rank of master. There has been times where the Order has interceded on this system due to a lack of hunters of a certain rank. While many of the older hunters dislike this, feeling that they alone should be in charge of the ranking system, it is out of necessity that this is done. And it is done very rarely. The truth is, the Order of Merlin is not a perfectly functional organization. It is instead a chaotic group of people attempting to pull in the same direction while blindfolded. The English KSG is a far better run operation with clear lines of command and procedure. However, the Order of Merlin is ours. It has an old historic tradition going back millennia and has survived a great deal over its long life, and despite its obvious flaws, it has stopped its fair share of catastrophes over the years. I am enormously proud to work for the Order, even if my role has become making instructional videos for it, and I am very happy to be able to interact with each of you. With Arthur's might and Merlin's wisdom, thank you.